Welcome to today's video, in which we are going to talk about Odin's quest for wisdom and the sacrifice he made to obtain it. It was night in Asgard. All the Aesir were resting, as Odin sat on his high throne. His thoughts were whirring through his mind. At his feet crouched his two faithful wolves, Geri and Freki, and on his shoulders sat his two ravens, Hugin and Munin. They were his messengers and scouts to the worlds beyond Asgard. Odin was the creator of all things, thus an enormous burden rested on his shoulders, and Odin was not at ease. He felt that he was in need of greater wisdom to fulfill his responsibilities. After much reflection, he suddenly jumped up and strode from his palace into the night. Soon he returned with Sleipnir, his 8-legged horse, and it was clear that Odin was about to embark on a journey. He swung himself onto Sleipnir's back and set off for Bifrost, the bridge that reaches between Midgard and Asgard, the realm of the gods. Sleipnir stepped onto the bridge, but the bridge began to wobble. It didn't seem strong enough to support the horse and its rider. But neither Odin nor Sleipnir were afraid, and so Sleipnir galloped further along the bridge. A short time later, Odin saw Heimdall, the guardian of the bridge. Heimdall rode towards him on a noble horse with a golden mane and greeted the Allfather. "You must be on urgent business, Allfather, if you are leaving Asgard in the middle of the night," said Heimdall. "Yes, indeed," replied Odin, "but I must hurry. It is good that we have you as our bridge guardian, Heimdall. Without you, our enemies would have invaded Asgard long ago. But you are extremely vigilant, and nothing escapes your sight. I, on the other hand, lack the wisdom to look after such loyal servants as you and curse our wicked enemies." Odin and Heimdall rode over the bridge and reached Heimdall's palace, which shone with such a bright light that anyone attempting to cross the bridge could see it from afar. Heimdall offered Odin a rest in his palace, which Odin gratefully accepted. He drank a cup of mead and said, "As I'm traveling to the land of our enemies, I will leave Sleipnir, my horse, here, and give it into your care. I would not entrust it to many, my faithful Heimdall, but I know you will take good care of it. I will continue my journey as a wanderer, so as not to be recognized by the giants." With these words, Odin left Heimdall's palace and set off north, to the land of the fierce giants. On the first day, Odin traveled through cold and snow, while the second day led him through landscapes with big mountains and wide rivers. On the third day, Odin finally came to a region full of green meadows and blooming flowers. Here was one of the 3 springs that supplied the world tree Yggdrasil with water. Nearby sat the white giant Mimir, who guarded the miraculous spring. For whoever drank from it received the gift of wisdom. Although Mimir was a giant, he was not at odds with the gods. He was kind and wiser than any other being. The spring was located in the middle of a beautiful valley, covered with plants and flowers, whose groves were full of sleeping dragons, snakes, lizards, and birds with shining plumage. A gentle light shone over this valley, in the center of which Yggdrasil's roots flourished. Mimir sat beside the spring, gazing down at it, when Odin approached him and said, "Greetings, Mimir. I have come from Asgard to ask you for a great favor." "If it is within my power, I will gladly help you," Mimir replied kindly. "As the father of gods and men, I need great wisdom," Odin began to explain. "But you surely already know that. That is why I have come, to ask you for a sip from your source of wisdom. Dangers lurk everywhere, and we face constant threats, which is why my desire for wisdom is very great. I am aware that no one has ever dared to ask you for this gift before, but now that you know my troubles, I hope you can grant my wish." Mimir didn't answer Odin immediately, and thought for a while. Finally, he turned to the Allfather. "Your request is a very great request, Odin. Are you also willing to pay the price it entails?" "Yes," Odin answered immediately without hesitation. "I will give you all the gold and silver of Asgard, all the shields and swords of the Aesir. I will even give you Sleipnir, my 8-legged steed, if necessary," Odin answered. "Do you think these things will buy you wisdom?" Mimir replied to Odin's offer. Wisdom can only be won through bravery and sacrifice. Are you, Odin, willing to sacrifice a part of yourself to me? Are you willing to sacrifice one of your eyes? Odin considered this and for a brief moment was stunned. But then he answered firmly, "Yes, I will even give you one of my eyes to gain the wisdom I need." Odin plucked out one of his eyes and gave it to Mimir, thus gaining the right to drink from his fountain of wisdom. So, Odin attained the wisdom of all 9 worlds and was, from then on, the wisest of all beings after Mimir. Thank you for watching. For more Norse tales, please subscribe.